Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 141 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on a sad, terrible Wednesday night where bad things happened this weekend, so I'm still sad. But we have a good show ahead of you outside of the bad stuff, I guess. And we're going to get into it. Before we get into moments of the week, start things off as we usually do. And me starting a one-show streak of not saying the wrong date. Ryan, how are you?
I'm probably not as upset as you are. I think I've maybe come to terms, just as we'll talk a little bit later about the Bruins and my kind of thought process. I'm more on the anxious side of things with the Celtics tonight. Obviously, game 2, after just completing the horrible last 24 hours when it happens of them losing, the Bruins losing in game 1. So a little more anxious than upset more than anything else. But as we go on and we start talking about the Bruins and bringing up some things, maybe I'll be a little bit more upset than I currently am. Other than that, not too bad.
Yeah, it's just not great times. Celtics are trying to not make bad history tonight. If they lose tonight, sorry, I'm looking away on Twitter stream on my phone. If they lose tonight, it is 6 consecutive Bruins and Celtics games lost in a row. That is the first time. That would be the first time that has ever happened.
That would suck. Let's not make bad history tonight. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, let's not make bad history. But moments of the week to start. Again, mine's quick. Mine was James Draws announcing the Nick Jones pick to the Chiefs in the 7th round. He's just the best. His videos are awesome. He's hilarious. I love that they did this for him. I am really going to miss his Sacramento videos because he says Catamento.
Sacramento.
Or Scatamento. Some iteration of that, and it always makes me laugh. And then he must have had some big prediction because anytime the Warriors or the Kings, the Warriors would win, he'd be like, I called it at the end, like wicked loud into the camera, just the best, the king of the internet. And I just thought that was awesome. I thought that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, very cool moment. Absolutely.
The other one in moments of the week, football related, is not so cool.
No, I mean, let's be honest, the moment of the week I was going to just kind of feed into Bruins stuff because it is what happened with the Bruins. I also could have put in, I don't know if we wanted to briefly touch on it, Patrick Mahomes' brother getting arrested, which was kind of funny. Obviously not for what he did, being the scumbag that he is, but him getting arrested was pretty funny, of course, because he's Patrick Mahomes' brother. He's already out on bail or was released today. So figures there. Mine, I didn't even know this was a thing until I woke up this morning and saw this tweet from good old Dov Cleveland. Talking about Antonio Brown. Did you know he has an arena football team? He owns an arena football team? You did know that. Okay. Did you know that he was going through all these problems? I'm going to run down just how wild and just, again, showing how much of a basket case Antonio Brown is.
I most definitely did not know about these things until like either yesterday or earlier today. I forget.
Okay, so the original tweet that I saw from Dov Cleveland, again from earlier today, was report Antonio Brown is accused of not paying his arena football team coaches and players as a result of not getting paid. The head coach and players have quit, including the reigning league MVP. Brown has also locked disgruntled players out of hotel rooms by not giving them keys. And then the quote tweet from Dov Cleveland a little later also went on to say, since Antonio Brown bought the arena football team in Albany, it has illegally used NFL footage for commercials, hasn't paid players and coaches, locked out players from hotel rooms, and players have quit or been suspended, including last year's MVP. So again, just check off another box of just the wild and craziness that is Antonio Brown. My question is, like, and I thought, and maybe it's just a case of money and he paid the most money, so you're going to get to own this team, but who in their right mind thought it was a good idea to let Antonio Brown run any sort of business, let alone a professional or whatever you want to consider an arena football team, what level that would be? But just run any sort of sports team, any sort of business in general, because I feel like that's a recipe for disaster, and you're seeing it kind of unfold here with all this craziness.
Yeah, I would say it's just, he has money, but I know the NFL is on a much different playing field, but we've seen most recently with the Commanders how long purchasing a team takes. Senators in hockey right now. Snoop Dogg is joining the bid. Like, how long these things take. Apparently, the process isn't too crazy.
In arena football, yeah. I can't imagine it would be. It doesn't surprise me, but again, didn't know this until I woke up this morning that he even owned any sort of football team, arena football team or whatever. But yeah, I found that kind of crazy. And then just with all the stuff that goes along with it, it's like just another case of Antonio Brown being a nutcase and maybe needing some sort of help. Because at this point, I think we can all agree that that guy's mind is not right in the slightest.
Nope, he's crazy. He has been.
He is certified crazy. Yep.
Certified crazy, man.
Yep.
But to keep it with football, we will recap the draft and stuff to start. Patriots had a weird draft, which is to be expected. But before we get to that, we'll run through some surprises, some news and notes from around the league. You have some notes here as well if you want to run through them, and then I'll run through and pick some draft picks I like value-wise and I don't like value-wise. If you want
just jump on the notable draft picks notes that are here, or how do you want to do this? Because there's a lot of draft stuff.
Yeah, we could do the notable draft pick stuff, and then I feel like Patriots at the end would be good.
All right, so some surprises. People missed it, of course. Some of the bigger names that we maybe linked the Patriots to, or the Patriots were linked to, some guys we thought they might take a chance on, or we would have at least liked them to take a chance on. Cornerback Joey Porter Jr. goes to Pittsburgh with the first pick of the second round. Really no surprise there. I saw a cool video come out today, I think it was, of his dad telling him, like, basically like you getting pissed off not getting drafted in the first round, have that fuel you to become like a better player. So that was kind of cool to see. To me, it was surprising that he kind of fell into the second round. You and I think both thought he was going to be a pretty well-respected first-round pick, somewhere in the mid-rounds, maybe a guy that we thought maybe could, if he did fall to the Patriots, wouldn't be the worst option there. Obviously, I think they ended up getting a better corner in the end. We'll talk a little bit later, but surprised he fell to the second round. Same thing with the next guy, Kentucky. Yeah, the next guy.
So the first pick of each of the first two rounds, the only picks I got right in my mock drafts.
There you go.
Second rounder. On the day of the second draft, I got Bryce Young and Joey Porter Jr., and that was it.
All right.
An all-time bad performance by me.
No, you win some, you lose some. So
yeah,
Nope, but whatever. Kentucky quarterback Will Levis, he ends up going to Tennessee in the second round, a second pick of the second round after Tennessee made a trade with Arizona to trade up and get him. Again, we kind of talked about that with them falling out of favor with Willis, which is surprising to me. Like, you give the kid not even a full year and you're already out on him, but we kind of went back and forth on that a little bit last week with your thoughts on him just kind of underperforming and then maybe wanting to move on, seeing the what he is going to be. Well, you said too, I think last week he was kind of taken on as like project type of thing to see if he ends up working out. Tennessee obviously doesn't think so. So they'll kind of do the same thing, it seems like, with Will Levis here. But he goes, like I said, second pick of the second round. Iowa tight end Sam Laporta was a pretty high ranked tight end. He goes to Detroit with the third pick of the second round.
That was a big surprise because I think the consensus was Kincaid and Mayer are going to be the first two off. So I won't say a reach by Detroit, but definitely higher than I think the large majority of people expected. But Iowa does good with tight ends, so I will not criticize them because
fair enough.
It'll probably work out for them.
That seemed like kind of the theme of Detroit's draft from what I saw, is not a lot of, but a couple of picks that were head scratchers or reaches, the first round ones especially. Obviously now we know that. Yep. We know now that
an Iowa linebacker that was wild. That also ruined my under 8.5 Big Ten bet, which stinks.
You can bet on stuff like that. That many players going in the first rounder. That's wild. Yeah. Insane the amount of stuff you can bet on. Kind of crazy. But speaking of Mayer, he goes the very next pick to Vegas in the second round after they traded up with Indianapolis. Wide receiver Jonathan Mingo, who of course had a little bit of linkage to the Patriots. I saw that name kind of float around. He goes to Carolina in the second round, pick 39. Alabama defensive back, who we talked about last week, Brian Branch. He goes to Detroit, the second round, pick 45 after trading up with Green Bay. North Dakota State offensive tackle, a guy you were very high on. Maybe more so for his picture than his skill, although he is a pretty good tackle. What's his jersey number? Is it?
Take a guess.
I'm going to guess it's 69.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That guy's a fucking
Shaq Mason walked, so Cody Moak could run.
Oh, is it Moak? I said Mouch. Yeah. That's not good, but I was never good with
Clint. I've heard Moak.
Fair enough. He goes to Tampa Bay, 48 pick on the second round after trading up with Green Bay. SMU wide receiver Raji Rice is the Kansas City Chiefs pick at wide receiver. He goes with the 55th pick after a trade with Detroit. Oklahoma wide receiver Marvin Mims, an interesting one, goes to Denver. Their wide receiver room's pretty crowded now out in Denver with the 63rd pick in round 2 after trading up with Detroit. A lot of trades in the second round. Picks flying around left and right. Detroit makes a pick in the third round. They get Hendon Hooker at quarterback, an interesting pick there. Wide receiver Jalen Hyatt goes to the Giants, round 3, pick 73. Great value pick. Yeah, he was a name that a lot of people I think were high on, kind of surprised that he fell to the third round a little bit. Any other notes on him?
I think the video going around of him kind of like chirping the Cowboys receiver coach in a workout was kind of funny.
I did not see that. I'll have to check that out afterwards.
Yeah, the Cowboys receiver coach was like essentially like saying he like route running is not one of his strengths. He's like, yeah, that's not true. Like just essentially telling the guy off and then, doing his workout.
Proving him wrong. Funny. Perfect. All right. Tucker Kraft is another tight end. He was a guy I saw kind of linked to the Patriots. Maybe take a late round flyer, mid round flyer on him. He goes to Green Bay. Interesting. Green Bay gets an offensive weapon there.
Yes. The Green Bay Packers took 2 tight ends, 3 receivers, and a running back in their first year.
The year after Aaron Rodgers leaves. Kind of funny. It was funny, though, to see in the first round, again, they take a linebacker, not any sort of offensive talent there, but then obviously they make up with it, like you just said, with all the offensive weapons that came later on in the draft.
They got a hockey guy, Lucas Van Ness.
They did. That's right. I remember seeing that video. I think you sent it to me of him. He demolished a guy, didn't he, with a hit?
He got called for boarding, too.
So bit of a head case there, or not a head case, but kind of balls to the wall type of guy in that case.
Gentleman.
Yeah, sure. Wide receiver Josh Downs, he goes to Indianapolis, round 3, pick 79.
Another
tight end
great value pick.
Absolutely. A guy I wanted the Patriots to take. Tight end Darnell Washington goes to Pittsburgh in the third round, pick 93. I've seen some mixed things on him. Like I kind of just thought from the couple videos I saw, he was going to be a beast, but there are some questions with him I've seen.
Yeah, like I've said before, I'm not a scout, but like he's very big, so his mobility is limited. I don't really know much about him otherwise, but that size and frame, if you can get him open, I mean, he's going to be really hard.
Yeah, you got to think that's going to play in the NFL, like his guys at that position. Absolutely.
That's someone you can realistically take a flyer on. And with Freiermuth there too, they could open one, if not, or vice versa, whichever one's getting open, you have a good option to throw to if you can get the ball to them.
Maybe they'll do what we want the Patriots to do and go to a 2 tight end set with 2 pretty good, or obviously we don't know what Washington's going to be like, but we can assume again with that frame that he's going to produce in some degree. So hopefully if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan listening, you got two very good tight ends there in the making. Alabama safety Jordan Battle goes to Cincinnati, round 3, pick 95. So Cincinnati took a hit on their defense a little bit this offseason, goes and gets a safety. Michigan kicker Jake Moody is the first kicker off the board to San Francisco in round 3, pick 99. Hell of a decision by San Francisco to pick a kicker in round 3, but I can't say much because the Patriots took a kicker in round 4, which was kind of aggravating, as we'll get into a little later. This guy's, I don't know if you've seen the tweets out today. Name has been flying around quite a bit. Ohio State offensive tackle. They have been debunked. Okay, good, because he was debunked. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. DeJuan Jones was kind of getting put through the ringer today, talking about, like you said, these now false reports of him wanting to play basketball and that turning teams off. He goes to Cleveland round 4, pick 111, a guy that we thought the Patriots might take a chance on. But this guy fell quite a bit, maybe because of those reports, maybe not. Any thoughts on just the whole situation with Jones?
I don't know.
Nothing now, too crazy.
He debunked him, so it doesn't seem like there's much of a problem. But I think the one thing that is true is that scouts seem to, be a little concerned with his like size and playing weight. So if there's anything, maybe that's part of it. But I don't see it really like hampering the guy too much.
Fair enough. All right. Quarterback Stetson Bennett, he goes to the Rams, an interesting pick there for LA, get a quarterback in the mid rounds to maybe surpass Matt Stafford when that's all set and done. To get him round 4, pick 128. Another quarterback that we saw maybe linked to the Patriots a little bit, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He goes to Cleveland round 5, pick 140. Another quarterback, Max Duggan, goes to the Chargers round 7, pick 239. Interesting. The Chargers take a quarterback there. And then Mr. Irrelevant is Toledo's defensive lineman, Deshaun Johnson. He goes to the Rams with the last pick in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, Stetson Bennett is the most surprising of the 3 quarterbacks taken in the mid to late rounds, because I'd be honest, I thought he was going to be like a 6th or 7th round pick, and the Rams must really like him. But what can you do? I don't think it's like that bad of a pick, but some people seem to disagree.
I don't know how
Pitchers
you. I
aren't bad.
mean, yeah, everyone has their opinions, but like I don't think it's not a terrible idea to have a backup quarterback for Matt Stafford. You saw what happened to Stafford last year. He's only getting older, so
Mhm.
his light's probably at the end of the tunnel more so than the beginning when it comes to his playing career. So I don't know. If I was a Rams fan, I wouldn't have a problem with him taking a maybe work in progress type of quarterback, see what you can get out of him. Because I mean, there is some skill there. I mean, the guy's won some national championships here and there, so got to think there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but definitely one of the more polarizing quarterback prospects this year.
Mm-hmm.
I will get into some surprises for me, good, bad value picks in my opinion. Um, the Eagles crushed the draft. They get Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, and Keely Ringo. They have 5 of the best players from the Georgia defense the last few years. That's pretty nuts. Tyler Steen in the 3rd round is really nice as well. They take a quarterback to back up Jalen Hurts as well, and Tanner McKee. Colts go with Anthony Richardson. See how it works for them. It's a different mold of a QB for them. They also get Julius Brents, Josh Downs, Blake Freeman, and added Tomiwa Adebaware, who are 3 really nice stretches of picks, or 4 rather. Darius Rush isn't too bad in the 5th round as well. Let's see who else. The Texans, the most interesting thing outside of the trading they did is they got Tank Dell out of Houston as well, who seems like CJ Stroud really wanted there, and he like pushed them to like go up and get him. So we'll see how that relationship blossoms in Houston. I hope it does well. I drafted CJ Stroud in the 1st round of my dynasty draft yesterday, so
There you go.
be pretty good if he's good. Witherspoon and Smith and Jigba to the Seahawks in the 1st round of the home run. They also got Zach Charbonnet and Anthony Bradford in the mid rounds, which are being touted as 2 pretty decent picks for them. Let's see who else. Nothing too crazy for the Bears. I'm just running through Dane Brugger's list and looking at these lists. Like I said earlier, with the Packers, they draft 6 offensive playmakers, 2 tight ends, 3 receivers, and a running back after Aaron Rodgers gets traded. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers, they made the trip with the Patriots. They took Broderick Jones away from the Jets.
Hilarious.
Back. Yeah, pretty funny, honestly. Joey Porter Jr., one of the better value picks as well in the 2nd round. Corey Trice Jr. is a guy I had heard some good things about as well. They get him in the 7th round. So I wonder if that ends up looking like a steal. The Bills didn't really have much to do, but Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox will be an interesting 2 tight end set for them. They also get Osiris Torrance in the 2nd round. The Lions had one of the more confusing drafts to some people, but they definitely got a lot of talent. Jahmyr Gibbs is now going to replace DeAndre Swift and join David Montgomery. They get Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta to go back-to-back in Iowa picks. Get Brian Branch and Hendon Hooker as well. Pretty solid draft for them, but a little bit surprising to people.
Mm-hmm.
The Browns didn't have a pick to the 3rd round, so they made the best of it. I like the run of Tillman, Ika, and DeJuan Jones in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Pretty solid. Luke Whippler's good in the 6th round from Ohio State. The Falcons, I really like what the Falcons did. I don't know anything about Javon Gwynn, but Bijan Robinson, Matthew Bergeron, Zach Henderson, Clark Phillips, and DeMarco Hellams are all picks I like. So I really like their draft class.
You like
Bryce
Robinson at 8, though? I saw a lot of people kind of go back and forth, especially that team. You just had the running back that was pretty good for them. Yeah, just had a good year last year. They double up on running backs now this year. Kind of an interesting choice there, especially in an offense that at times was criticized last year for not really know how to use all these star players that like Pitts, like some of these guys they have. Interesting that they go with a running back at 8. Any like you kind of already alluded to, like you like the player, so maybe it's going to sway your answer. But
someone had to do it in the 1st round.
That's true, but
I think it's high position, draft position wise. But in terms of skill, I don't think you can go wrong with Bijan. So it's
fair
interesting,
enough.
but I think it'll work out.
Okay,
I think they could have done a lot worse.
that's
Panthers.
True.
I like every single player they drafted. They only had 5 picks, but have differing levels of familiarity with all 5 players. I like it for the Panthers. The Giants getting Deonte Banks is nice. They also got that nice value on Jalen Hyatt. The Titans get Peter Skoronski and the potential QB he's protecting now, and get Jalen Duncan in the 6th round. I've seen Jalen Duncan mocked as high as the 2nd and 3rd round, so to get him in the 6th is pretty nice for their O-line. The Buccaneers get Kalijah Cansey, one of the biggest risers in the 1st round. I like that. They also get Cody Moak. Let's see who's next. The Patriots. We'll talk about that later. The Cardinals made some moves and got ended up with Paris Johnson, got BJ Ojulari in the second round. Other than that, not super thrilled on their draft class, to be honest. The Saints, I found out today, I forget how many years it's been, maybe 30 years, they have not traded back once in the draft.
I wish the Patriots take a page out of the Saints playbook. I mean, it worked out this year. We'll get into, but
that is
it's a little wild.
Bonkers.
Yeah,
that is bonkers. They get Brian Brzee, Isaiah Foskey, and Kendra Miller with their first 3 picks. Pretty solid there. I'm gonna like that for them. And A.T. Perry's nice in the 6th round. The Bengals, heavy on defense to start. Then they get Charlie Jones, that guy I thought would have been a perfect receiver option for the Patriots, but wasn't meant to be. The Chargers, Quentin Johnson, a little bit of a polarizing player, but his video kind of stole the show today. I remember seeing, he's calling his mom, telling her to put it 2 weeks in and retire.
That was very cool.
Have to work anymore. Very cool. They also get Max Duggan in the late rounds to back up Trevor Lawrence. Not too bad. They also got another TC receiver in Darius Davis, so they're reuniting them in LA. The Raiders, Tyree Wilson, Michael Meyer, and Byron Young is a really nice run of first 3 picks. Other than that, it's whatever to me. Ravens, they got my boy Zay Flowers. They also got Trent
I was going to
Simpson.
ask your feelings on that.
Sucks. I hate it, but I'm happy for him. He's going to be really good there, and he's going to be a really good NFLer, I think. Andrew Voorhees is a guard I've heard really good things about too. They get him in the 7th round, so that's pretty nice. The Jaguars. I don't really know anything about any of these players, to be honest with you, besides Tank Bigsby and Anton Harrison. That's about it. So I can't really comment on much. I've heard decent things about the receiver they took, Parker Washington, as well, out of Penn State. The Cowboys go double on Michigan to start. They got Mozzie Smith and Luke Schoenmaker. They were down to Mozzie Smith and Matthew Bergeron. They go with Mozzie Smith. Bergeron ended up going in the 2nd round to the Falcons, and they drafted Deuce Vaughn, whose dad works for the Cowboys, and that call was very cool.
That was one of the coolest moments of the draft entirely. That was very cool to watch.
I don't think you can start the conversation any way better than "you want to go to work with me."
Yeah, that really line. Cool. Yep.
That's just an awesome moment. The Commanders, thankfully, pass up on Christian Gonzalez. Emmanuel Forbes, pretty good player from what I've gathered. But I think Christian Gonzalez is and will be better. I also like KJ Henry in the 5th round out of Clemson. The Broncos didn't really have much, but they did pretty decent. I think they could have done a lot worse with 5 picks. The Chiefs go edge rusher in the 1st round, a little bit surprising to me, but they get Rashee Rice in the 2nd round. It's Patrick Mahomes. This guy could either be awesome or just, be whatever. But
he'll make it work somehow. Yep.
I like Wanya Morris as well. And of course, Nick Jones was James Drose's pick. That was an awesome moment. The Rams really weirdly had a ton of picks because they never have picks, but I like Steve Avila in the 2nd round. I got Stetson Bennett. Warren McClendon Jr. is really nice value. And I also like Zach Evans, once touted as one of the best running backs going into his college class. They get him in the 6th round. If they can turn him into something, he'll be a good player. The Jets, they reached really big time on Will McDonald the 5th, I think. Or not the 5th, the 4th. But we'll see what happens there. Other than that, I don't really think they had a good draft, and they're ranked 29th in Dane Brugler's draft rankings for a reason, I think. The Dolphins did not pick to the 2nd round. They get Cam Smith in the 2nd round. Devin Achane, I've heard, is good as well. The running back from Texas A&M. The Vikings, Jordan Addison. Then I really don't know much about the rest of their draft class, to be honest with you. And the 49ers ranked last in Dane Brugler's rankings. They get Jake Moody and Cameron Letu, who thought of to be potential Patriots. Other than that, don't really have much to say.
When you draft a kicker in the 3rd round, I'd have to assume that takes your draft stock, your draft ranking pretty far down the list.
Yeah, and they didn't have a pick in the first 2 rounds either. So
they drafted Jair. That's really bad.
They drafted Jair Brown, who's a safety from Penn State at 87, and then took Jake Moody at 99. So interesting.
Really bad.
For the 49ers. But shall we get into the Patriots draft? Because, shocker, it was weird.
Yes, it was. I mean, it started off good, depending on, again, what position you wanted them to take, what position you were looking for them to take. And then it kind of, I don't want to say fell off, as it went along, but they were definitely some more head scratching and confusing decision making picks than anything else as the further on you got.
Yeah, but thankfully they traded down and didn't screw up with Christian Gonzalez. This is a guy that can be your CB1 potentially right away. And you pick up pick 120 as well that they ended up flipping to move up for a kicker, which I know you're thrilled about.
Yeah.
I love it. Christian Gonzalez is so good. He has a very good chance of being the best corner in the class. Some people seem to think, he's got competitiveness issues and stuff like that. I remember there was something about Mike Tomlin that came out related to that. I don't know. I'm not a scout. I'm not going to act like I know much about that. I'm not going to act like I watch a ton of Oregon games, but following him enough this year, he's the real deal. I'm very excited about the pick, and it's a home run.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought the same thing. We were texting obviously the night of the draft, trying to figure out what the hell the Patriots were going to do. And then when it got to 14, as I'm driving to work, as we found out they traded the picks, it was like, oh, no surprise there. And of course, all these guys that you want. At the time, of course, Broderick Jones was still on the board. We obviously talked about would they take a tackle, would they take a corner. Gonzalez is still there. All the big name wide receivers, specifically Jackson Smith and Jigba are there. You get to 17, you luck out that they're both still there. I was fine with either one. I was saying it. I'm like, just please take one of them. Don't do something stupid. Trade down again and draft like some no-name guy or some tackle no one's ever heard of. They didn't. It is interesting. I was thinking about it today as I was setting the outline up. I'm like, I do find it kind of funny that Bill Belichick, obviously all the talk about, going into the draft, would they get a weapon for Mac Jones? Would they get maybe some protection for Mac Jones? Two of those things are still on the board, and they still decide to go with a defensive player. Again, don't get me wrong. I like the player. I like the pick. I'm as excited as you are for Gonzalez. But thinking back on it and looking at it again, I did find it kind of funny that it's like, all right, you did have a chance to get arguably the best receiver in the draft in Smith and Jigba at both 14 and 17, and you went with a defensive player. So, again, not a problem with the pick. Don't get me wrong. But like I just said, harping on, I do find that a little funny that Bill decided to go defense instead of two, offensive players that maybe could have helped Mac Jones out.
Yeah, I mean,
it is something to think about, don't you think? Just a little bit, like if you want to read into the like Bill and Mac buttonhead rumors and stuff like that have come out all off season. That's just another, I think, page in that book that you can maybe look into.
Maybe, but I think when it comes down to it, they just see more positional value.
Fair enough. Yep.
I guess here, Keon White was a surprise in the second round, but I mean, my biggest takeaway, not a guy I followed a ton going into the draft. He is absolutely ginormous.
He's a monster. Yeah.
He is absolutely ginormous. Like, fool me, man. I guess like you got 2 years left on Judon's deal. Maybe this is a down the road type of player.
There's one on Uche too, isn't there?
I think there's one on Uche. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a down the road, like big time contributor. Maybe he's not a big time contributor this year, but I don't know. It seems like a solid pick, but I really don't know a ton about the player. But the more and more I learn a little bit, I'm not super like bummed about it. So
no, I mean, it's one of those things in the moment where I think you and I both said it. It's like they took an edge rusher with the second pick. Like, again, there's still plenty of other needs on the board, but like you said, the more you hear about it, I kind of heard that might be like you said, an Uche replacement down the line. I think it's like I said, he has 1 year left, maybe even further. As you mentioned, maybe he's a replacement for Judon, but you watch the tape on the guy, you hear some people talk about him. Like you said, he is a pretty big specimen. So he's a guy with, I think I've heard a lot of people say, a ton of athletic upside ability. So the Patriots, it seems like took a chance there. And if he pans out, it'll be good. Obviously, we didn't get a good start with him because the video and the pictures we saw when they announced his name going to the Patriots, the video did not couldn't cut in, at a good time where he looked like pissed off that he was a Patriot. But then obviously the actual video came out later on of him excited and crying. So a little bit of a scare there where the guy looked like he was not happy to be a Patriot. But in the end, I think it's all going to work out perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay. Marte Mapu, gotta be honest, I'm not sure I ever heard a single thing about Marte Mapu going to the draft.
Well, the guy's from Sacramento State, so
yeah, I heard Daniel Jeremiah say that Marte Mapu is his favorite player in the whole draft, and that's pretty nuts.
Okay.
This pick just screams they're trying to find another Kyle Duggar. It makes sense. He plays safety and linebacker. You lose Devin McCourty. Adrian Phillips is 32. Which, doesn't spell the end, but, you want to get some use of the position if you like the positional value.
Yep.
But, like, seems like a good player. Any video I've seen watching after, he hits hard, he's fast, and I don't really have too many complaints. There
No,
wasn't
I don't.
anybody at this pick I was like furious they left on the board.
Yeah,
Maybe a
I've.
couple receivers I would have preferred,
Mhm.
but like nobody. I'm like, oh, why did you take this guy? I was like, oh, okay, they took a guy I don't know exists. Like it's okay,
All
I
right.
guess. The more I look into it, so
Yep, I'm right there with you. Same thing. It's like there wasn't a ton of people that I knew. Like the deeper, obviously, I get to the draft. I'm gonna know less and less names. So I was fine with it. Again, you look at it when it first comes up, you're like, oh, they drafted a safety, but you listed it out. It is maybe a McCourty replacement down the line. Maybe with some that one of the older positions the Patriots have. It's a guy they look for in a couple of years to break out and perform pretty well. And like you said, I've heard some good things about this kid too. And another one of these guys, it seems like if they can get a lot out of him, is going to be like a pretty good player. But there are some questions on if they can unlock a second gear, or a higher ability, kind of that type of thing.
yeah, we will just wait and see. It's one of those picks.
Yep.
This one confused me.
As it should.
Mainly because I thought he was just a pure center at first. We've now learned he can play left and right guard.
Still doesn't
Jake
make a lot of
Andrews
sense though.
From Troy. I'm not going to act like I know anything about the player, but I do like the versatility, and I know Bill does too. It's fine. He's depth. It's the 4th round. I can't really get super upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this one to me, just again, looking at kind of the draft projections and the comparisons and all that stuff you look at after the fact, the strengths and weaknesses, all that stuff. The one thing that kind of sticks out, at least to me, it did. And again, maybe it depends on how well or how much you read into these type of things. But NFL.com, their draft recap of him, draft projection wise, had him as a 6th round draft pick. So you draft a guy that's projected to go in the 6th round and the 4th round at a position that you don't really need all that much depth at right now. I mean, maybe you do at center. David Andrews is not getting any younger. There are some injury concerns there. Like you said, a guy that's pretty versatile, but again, you'd like a tackle in that spot, not a guy that can, play center or guard, because you don't really need those two positions at the moment. So it's an interesting one for sure. Again, maybe, you got to think Bill Belichick sees more out of him than someone like you and I, but that was the beginning of the head scratching picks starting in the 4th round, at least for me.
Yeah. Next up was a trade up 8 picks for a kicker. All I can say is they must really like the guy. I'm not going to act like I have a scouting report on a kicker from Maryland, but they need one. So I guess it's fine, even though
fair enough. Again,
Folk, I believe is still under contract.
But yeah, one more year, I think. Exactly.
Yeah,
but again,
40.
that leg's going to go at some point. One thing, I think it was Scott Zolak that said it. Like, if you watch any of the video, if you pull him up on YouTube, this kid, every one of his kicks is like straight as an arrow. So maybe that's something to look forward to. But again, I can't get behind trading. Like, you get excited that they trade up for a pick because the Patriots never do it. It's like, oh crap, they might actually, especially when they have so many picks in the later rounds, you're like, oh, they might see something. Maybe they're going to trade up for a receiver or a tackle. Nope, they trade up for a kicker. Again, at a position, do you need? Maybe, depending on how you look at Nick Folk, if they think he's going to break down. But and again, too, depending on how you look at the draft grades and stuff, CBS giving the pick an F, like that's pretty glaring. But again, you read into that, we'll say you will. Kicker. Exactly. Well, that's the thing too, where it's like, and then you look at the little blurb about him too, and it's the same thing with the punter a couple rounds later, where they give the one blurb as he could be a role player or a guy that is going to maybe perform in the special teams unit. It's like, crap, it's a kicker. They're definitely going to be a role player. They're definitely going to be on the special teams. So I don't know. Again, wait and see. Will he make the team? Will he not? Who knows? But a kicker in the 4th round to me, when you have other needs, just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's Belichick. Things confuse us with his draft picks.
Very true.
I'm used to it.
Mm-hmm.
City Sow, I hope I said that correctly. A guard from Eastern Michigan, former teammate of Ryland when Ryland was at Eastern Michigan. It was a guard, so I was like, okay, we're taking another guard. Mm-hmm. But even though he hasn't played tackle since 2018, he does have some tackle experience. Okay. And maybe since 2018, his technical skills and strength have gotten better. I imagine they have. So maybe he's a sneaky good tackle at some point. Just another guard that screams Belichick, versatile. Yep. Can't really hate it too much. And, is a guy that had some buzz going into the draft. So
true. Yep. But same thing. It's like, guard again. You don't really need one, but if he has tackle ability, maybe you find something there. I can't remember who it was, but I thought I saw something on Twitter that said like this guy might be like a sneaky steal in the 4th round because of his ability. So of course we'll have to wait and see on that. Again, if you're looking into draft grades, CBS gave him an A with a chance to start as the surround, like the little blurb about him. So there's some upside there, it seems.
Yep, certainly. We'll see. Antonio Maffi at 144. This is the guard of the class they took that I heard the most about going into the draft. And don't really see anything I dislike. So cool.
I don't know enough about the player, so
yeah.
just
Never
again,
seen anybody name Antonio before, too.
Nope.
First.
Mm-hmm. But again, the one thing that stands out is it's another guard. So that's you're piling up guards for whatever reason. Who knows? You're just going to have a ton of depth at that position, which is never a bad thing. But again, it comes down to like you have other positional needs. Is this another guy that you needed to spend a draft pick on for the position you didn't really need to spend one on?
Yeah, it's fair. My second favorite pick of the Patriots in the draft, Kayshon Boutte from LSU. Once thought of as a first-round draft pick, has seen his stock fall the last 2 years. Was arguably one of the best receivers in the country 2 years ago. He had a 308-yard and 14 catch and 3 touchdown game 2 years ago against Ole Miss. Kayshon Boutte is really, really good at the top of his game. The problem is he has not been at the top of his game the past 2 years. So it'll be their job to get him there.
Is that because of injury concerns? Sorry to cut you off, or like I know nothing about the player, so okay.
Not that I know of, but I don't know a ton about the player, but I remember seeing the hype about him 2 years ago, and things cooling off. I think he was going to enter. I might be wrong on this. He was going to enter the draft last year, but opted not to.
Okay.
This is a no-brainer 6th-round pick if you have multiples. Like, you have to take the positional value that you could potentially get here and hope for the best. So I love the Kayshon Boutte pick. Yeah,
I'm right there with this is the one, obviously, other than the 1st-round pick that you get excited for, because again, it's a position that you need. And like you mentioned, there's a ton of upside. I really haven't seen anybody that has knocked this pick. Again, maybe it's just because that you need a receiver and that's the first one you take, but I'm excited to see what this kid brings to the table for all the same reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, he could look really good if the system works out. Bryce Baringer, a punter. He is a punter. I don't know anything else, but I hope he punts well.
As do I. And again, like the grades, like I said, punter, they have listed as a guy that can be an average backup or a special teamer. It's like, yep, he's going to be a special teamer. So,
good enough.
Yep. Again, Bill Belichick loves his punters, so maybe he saw something that he really liked to spend a 6th-round pick on the punter. But that's one to me makes more sense than the kicker. Like, you need a punter. You don't have a real punter on the roster right now. So
yeah, that too.
Yep.
Can't really hate it.
No.
Demario Douglas out of Liberty. I saw Evan Lazar mention him in the same sentence as like a lower end Zay Flowers, and I like that. Cool.
Take that, absolutely.
Amir Speed was next. Sounds like a special teamer. And his name's Speed. So I hope he's fast.
As do I. Yep.
Sounds like a special teamer. Can't really say too much about it.
No.
But with the 7th-round pick, the final pick, the Jonnu Smith pick, they take Isaiah Bolden, the only player from an HBCU taken in the draft. Deion Sanders was not too thrilled about that. Makes sense as, former coach of Jackson State. Sounds like he can return kicks and play corner. Maybe some special teams. Don't really hate the pick, but it's a 7th-round pick. Don't know a ton about the player, so.
Neither do I. Sorry, I had the Red Sox game on in the background, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just hit a ball back to Toronto that may or may not have come down yet. That was an absolute nuke.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. No, I mean, the interesting thing I was going to get your thoughts on with a couple, like obviously they not loaded up, but a couple of corners here and there, some guys that, have some versatility in the back. I can't remember who it was on Twitter. It might not even have been like a verified account or anything like that or anybody specific. But somebody brought up an interesting point that said, maybe with the Patriots going with some corner depth when they really don't need a ton of it. Do you maybe see Marcus Jones line up at receiver a little bit more to take the pressure off him? Now you have a couple extra corners there, which I thought was kind of interesting because obviously we saw him have success doing that last year. Maybe it's something to keep an eye on, but as of right now, like I can't imagine this guy or Speed are going to crack the the roster right away or be like, impact players right away by any means.
My biggest hope is these guys are Miles Bryant competition. They
Oh,
serve
absolutely. Yep.
roles when they need to, and I think Marcus Jones will do everything. So
Fair enough.
I think you'll line up in the backfield. I think you'll line up a receiver. I think you will play corner. I think you will return kicks and punts.
He'll do everything.
Yes, quite good.
Ultimate
who's
gadget
a
guy
that might do everything too, and I was very excited to see them sign was Malik Cunningham out of Louisville.
I saw poor man's Lamar Jackson when they had announced this kid, or the tweet I saw, and I got very excited. So I'm like, I'll take that.
Which may just be a layup because he's a mobile Louisville quarterback like Lamar. But I mean, he is very mobile and he is willing to change positions. And I think this is absolutely a guy that a type of guy I want them to sign every year. They did it last year with De'Aaron King.
I was just going to say that.
Didn't work out with De'Aaron King. I think he's in the XFL now, but it's worth a shot. They sign undrafted guys every year. Johnny Lumpkin out of Louisiana. Not going to act like I know much about him.
All-time name team.
Yeah, funny name. Jordan Hellig from Appalachian State and Ed Lee from Rhode Island. Invited to rookie minicamp. His Twitter ad is Ed, and Ed Lee.
That's awesome. Now I want the kid to make the roster just because of that.
Yep.
That's all I need. He can suck.
Put him on the practice squad.
Yep.
Fine with me. Speaking of rookie minicamp, we want to give a shout out to Samara Mac guys. Tyler Roberts to Chiefs minicamp. Anthony Weatherstone signs a free agent deal with the Chiefs, and Jay Anuyama, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. He signs an undrafted deal with the Steelers. So shout out to those guys.
Very cool. Yep.
Very cool. The Merrimack guys making their way into the NFL the numbers are increasing slowly.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very exciting to see.
I saw a report that 16 teams had interest in Jay. So very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
What's also interesting really quick is, again, like you said, they tend to sign undrafted free agents. One of them, it seems like, makes the team every year. Again, I'm very surprised that no offensive tackle whatsoever was picked up. And maybe there's still time, so maybe someone will get signed. But, again, not really prioritizing that position, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe they have faith in Sal, and they did sign a couple. So we'll see what happens at the tackle position.
Yep.
Hopefully they won't be signing Isaiah Wynn. I don't think they will at this point.
No, I hope not.
My overall grade, as is yours, spoiler alert, is a C+ for this draft.
Yeah, like I said at the start, it started off excellent. You get, as you mentioned, a guy that could probably slot in as your number one corner right away, and Christian Gonzalez. Like I said the night of the draft, I guess I'll give Bill Belichick credit. Because as we know, I hate when he trades back. I hate when he gives up a first, or just moves off the first round pick, but it ended up working out for him. It didn't bite him in the ass on this one. Unless you were someone that wanted them to take Broderick Jones, then that's unfortunate, but that's what happens. At least the Jets didn't get him, so that's a positive. Other than that, like we talked about throughout, like I know there's some positives and some upsides on White in the second round. But an edge rusher, as I said, especially when guys like Moch, again, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. He's still on the board, a guy that we've talked plenty about last week. And then, the wide receivers, Jaden Reed, Raji Rice, Marvin Mims, Hyatt, and Tillman were all there. Again, like to me, you need a wide receiver, you need a tackle more than you need an edge rusher. So, like you said, maybe there's some positional value there down the road that we'll have to wait and see on. As I mentioned already, the trading up for the kicker just annoys me. And then the no tackles being drafted or brought in as undrafted free agents yet is incredibly confusing as well. So that's why I have it as a C+. I can't get too high, I can't get too low. We're kind of in wait and see mode with a lot of these picks, but I am excited, as I said, for Gonzalez, obviously, and then the wide receiver and Booty down the line.
Yeah, it's a very hodgepodgey type of class.
Absolutely.
I couldn't quite give it a B-, so I'll give it a C+. And if they screwed up the Gonzalez pick, it would have been in the D range.
So, absolutely.
Depending on who they got, I should say. Otherwise. Excuse me. That is going to wrap it up for football talk. Shall we get to the Bruins funeral first and then some with hockey, or the Celtics?
We can get to the funeral, get that out of the way, and share our thoughts, because I think it's been, anybody that listens to us, I'm sure, has been waiting to figure out what we have to say about this and try to figure out our thought process on what actually went wrong with this team.
Yeah, man. It sucks. I mean, this is it's bad. It's a huge catastrophe
Mm-hmm.
of proportions of which we've literally never seen in the NHL. Not even just with the Bruins.
Nope.
It's bad. It started with Game 6. Going from where we picked off last to now. Game 6 was truly, truly heart attack inducing.
One of the most aggravating hockey games to watch, I think, in my lifetime. Like, I've said it before, where it's like we've talked about this before too. This, especially this season, where it's like the Bruins lose a game, and I'm like, okay, they lost the game, whatever. The Celtics lose a game, I want to put my fist through the TV. This was the first time all season with the Bruins. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me with this. Like, how do you give up this as many leads as you did? How do you just lose focus as much as you did? It was, like I said, for lack of a better term, infuriating to use, like I said, the same term. Infuriating to watch throughout the entire night.
Yeah, and anybody who's in my Twitter space after the game knows I was legit screaming. So shout out to my neighbors for not filing a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Omar,
they were probably watching it too. They're like, we know, sorry to cut you off, but it's like we know what he's going through. We understand. We'll let him.
That would be funny.
We'll let him have his moment here and move on.
Yeah. Omar makes 26 saves and 32 shots. How he wasn't pulled after 5 or 6 goals
doesn't make any sense. Nope.
Especially knowing what we do now about his health.
Mm-hmm.
Marchand was the best Bruin. He had 4 assists, which goes under the radar in a game like this. Pastrnak had 2 goals. The longest time in between goals this entire game was 7 minutes and 43 seconds.
That's wild. Did you find that in a tweet, or did you do that math yourself?
I did that math myself.
Kudos to you. How about that? Doing your homework.
Yep. The defense was truly terrible. It's sad that that's probably going to be the last game Connor Clifton plays as a Bruin, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He was really bad. The defense as a whole was bad. The moment I knew it was over was when Tkachuk scored 27 seconds after DeBrusk's shorthanded goal.
Yep.
Like, I was like, yep, that's it. Like, they can't do this more. It was just unbelievably infuriating.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's when I texted you. I'm like, if the Bruins ever score again, which they didn't, obviously, but if they score again, like, there's not even any point to celebrate, because at some point down the line, Florida's probably just going to tie it up, because, like you said, the defense was as bad as it's been all season in that just one game.
5 for 8 on the power play combined between both teams. This is where it started for most people. I just don't know how you have a goaltender rotation all year, and then after your goalie lets up 4 or 5 goals, you're not like, hey, this is a huge
might
game
want to pull
that
him.
Could put us in the second round. Let's change goalies. No, hung him out to dry while he's hurt. People could see he was hurt early in the series and in that game. Find out he is hurt after the season ends. Just an unacceptable fuck up. A really unacceptable fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the
series of fuck ups.
Oh, for sure, and that's why I was gonna say. Well, I was gonna get into it later, but we'll jump into it now because I think it fits. This is where I think the shine for Montgomery, at least for me, started to wear off a bit. I mean, you mentioned it with the Clifton stuff. We said that we were texting each other during the game. Why he's even out there to begin with? You had him start the series. It didn't look great. You put Grzelcyk in there. You go and win 2 games in Florida. You're like, all right, that's what you're going to go with the rest of the series because it makes a lot of sense. It's worked. And then to take Grzelcyk back out, maybe, I don't know. I mean, this was after the craziness of Game 5. So maybe Montgomery was trying to think of, I'll put the tougher guy back out there again just in case. In that case, though, it's like, just go with what's worked so far. Clifton obviously didn't have it. Got exposed time and time throughout this series. The stuff with Omar, like you said, that we know now that he was hurt. And again, we talked about it going in, that he just didn't look right. Really any game he was out there. Why you don't go to Swayman, give him a chance, maybe, still some momentum back. It just didn't make a lot of sense. From that standpoint, I think Montgomery kind of showed that this was really the first time all season he looked like he was in over his head. Like every decision he made was the wrong decision. Like the lineup changes made no sense half the time. I know you maybe try to, at this point, I think it was just trying to mess with the Panthers, coming out. We talked about it when I asked you about the morning line changes and everything and how everything was kind of jumbled together. I didn't understand that. A lot of people didn't. Just go with what worked throughout the season. Don't try to be too cute. And I feel like throughout the series, Montgomery maybe was in over his head at times and trying to, put together some sort of, I don't know how I even want to word it, like try to outsmart, I guess, you know what I'm getting at. Like maybe just if it comes down to if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And I feel like he tried to fix everything that didn't need to be.
Yeah, and like I'm not gonna be one of those people now that's saying like Montgomery completely sucks because there
No,
are people that are saying
the
that.
people that are doing that, and the people that want him, I've seen like want him fired. I'm like, all right, let's like I put a lot of the blame on him in the series for those type of mistakes, but we're not getting rid of the guy after 1 year or anything. But let's not get too crazy here.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the thing is traditionally you run with one goalie in the playoffs for the most part. They hadn't been through much adversity all year, and he wasn't ready. That's just
that's what it comes absolutely what it
really
comes down
simple.
to. Yep,
it's really that simple to me, and that's pretty sad.
Mhm.
But hopefully something they can learn from next year. So that's where we're at right now. Game 7 at home. Swayman gets the start. 7 saves on 31 shots. They lose 4-3 in overtime. Brandon Montour is a fucking maniac.
Mhm.
And I had no idea until today he had 73 points in the regular season.
I did not know that either. I would have never known that unless you told me that.
Like I thought he was truly pulling this out of his ass. I knew he's been playing better the last 2 years in Florida than he was in Buffalo and Anaheim, but 73 points, not a single person talked about this.
No.
That I saw throughout the season.
Mhm.
Just a true pain in the ass the whole series, scoring clutch goal after clutch goal. He scores, started the Reinhardt goal. Hampus Lindholm stumbles, opens up some room. Nobody else can catch Reinhardt in time. Frederick and Nosek were nearby. Hampus Lindholm was truly useless. You could have done better with Zaboral this whole series than Lindholm.
I don't think you definitely couldn't argue that. It's not like Lindholm was like out there. Like if Lindholm was out there at least like hitting guys or like establishing some sort of physical game or something like that, or just like at least getting the puck up the ice like we've seen him do time and time again and be really successful doing that. He didn't even do that in this series. So that was, and like I texted you listening to Felber Maz, I think Monday when they talked about it, the fact that he's played in 11 games in the playoffs as a Bruin and has 0 points. Like that's astonishing to me with the type of player that he is and the talent that we know he can, bring to the table.
Yeah, it was just shocking. Really, truly shocking how bad he was.
Yep.
David Krejci, though, didn't want to hear no bell. He scores what hopefully isn't his last ever NHL goal. Gets the team back into it. Tyler Bertuzzi, a monster this playoffs, ties it up. Huge goals from them. And Brandon Carlo, for the love of God, when he got the puck, I'm like, dude, please just shoot it. I'm thinking to myself, please. And he shot it and it worked. Just shows you when we saw so much overcomplicating from the Bruins that sometimes whether you're just about to hit the offensive blue line or in the zone, you just need to shoot the fucking puck.
Well, that's what plagues this team.
All the people who yell shoot at the games are, vindicated here. He did it and it worked. I'm not going to say I thought that was game over, that they were going to win, but I was like 95% of the way there that they
You had a much better feeling. Yep, for sure. You're like, all right, finally something broke their way. Like you said, they finally did what they were supposed to do. Like, again, we've talked about this since we started at Merrimack. It's been one of the biggest things that has plagued this team throughout the playoffs. It doesn't matter who the coach is, who's on the team. They always, for whatever reason in the playoffs, seem to overcomplicate everything and always look for that extra pass. Now you finally have a guy that, like you said, just lets one rip and it ends up working out perfectly, because that's what Bobrovsky is. Like, we knew going in he wasn't a great goalie. We made fun of him, and like he was prone to these type of things. You give a bad rebound, let a leaky one through, just put the puck on the guy. He's going to make a mistake. And then, you finally see that from Carlo. Pasternak, like you said, gets going the last couple of games. You had a much better feeling. We're like, okay, they've come back like we've seen them do throughout the season if they were down. This looks like the team that we've, come to know and love. Just hold on and you're going to advance. And then again, just shit hits the fan late and it all comes like as soon as you're going to get into it here. As soon as Montour scored, I'm like, I think I texted it to you. I don't even want to watch the overtime because you knew exactly what was going to happen. You just didn't know when it was going to happen, how it was going to happen, but you knew the heartbreak was coming at some point.
Yeah, I didn't feel good. 59.3 seconds, 17 seconds from 2013 has a new king. That's when I knew it was over.
It's
too.
over. Yep. It's like there's nothing they can do. That it is just Florida has all the momentum. Boss, there's nothing that Montgomery, Bergeron, anyone in that locker room can say like that. It's such a kick in the balls. Like you knew going into the third period, they were given the last like rah speech. Like this isn't going to be it. That happens. It's like, all right, what can you say that hasn't already been said? How do you find that extra gear after you gave up another goal late? It showed. I mean, Swayman tried his best in the overtime, and he was their best player throughout it. Like with a couple of big saves he made, absolutely. Yeah. So he obviously wanted it, but in the end, again, it's the same thing that happened. Bad giveaways, just not playing defense in your own end that ends up burning this team for the final time.
Yeah, Swayman just couldn't see it.
Nope, he had no chance. That's what I mean. I saw some people get on him. I was like, dude, he had no chance of stopping that puck. He never saw it. He even said it himself. I think whatever he said was like, I saw it go low to high, and after that, I had no idea where it was. Basically.
Yep, that's it. It sucked. Like what these last 3 games of the series were truly awful. In so many different ways. That leads us to our next point. This is the number 1 Bruins collapse in my lifetime, and that is crazy to say. They lost in Game 7 of the Cup Finals, but you have a lead in the series as the best team ever to a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs, and you lose it in horrific fashion multiple times, and then in OT in Game 7. That's it.
Yep.
The 2019 loss hurt way more. This is more shocking.
Yeah, I mean, this is like you said, all the just the disaster factor of it happening. Like St. Louis, the 2019 for me, like a spoiler, it's 2023 this year is mine too. Again, because like you had 3 chances to close this thing out, and you just continue to shoot yourselves in the foot over and over and over again. And just again, everything leading up to it, the season you had, the questions surrounding it, is this it for Bergeron and Krejci? So like obviously there was that whole, you want to win, at least you want to win for Bergeron. That was kind of the mentality the team took on throughout the season. The fact that it came crashing down as quickly and as like abruptly as it did and as bad as it did, like that is gonna sit poorly for quite a long time.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. Yeah, so we might as well just go through our top 5s at this point.
Sure, if you want to,
just call them
relive some
because they suck.
Yep.
2023 is number 1 for me. 2019 is number 2 against St. Louis. Chicago was 3 in 2013. It was shocking, and it sucked how it all unraveled, but I didn't expect the Bruins to win the series. I mean, probably saying a different story if they win Game 6 and then, see what happens. But Chicago was the best team in the league that year. They won the President's Trophy. They were just better. So I wasn't like super shocked from a competitiveness standpoint, but just shocked by the ending. 17 versus Ottawa. I just think they were the better team. It sucked to, see them squander the series after winning the first game. And Philly in 2010 obviously sucked, but like I wasn't young and I was too young to like comprehend that as well as I do the sport now. So I have to put it at 5. Some people might think that's crazy, but obviously it sucked, but the burden was made easier by them winning the next year. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, for mine, I had same thing. I had this year because for all the reasons we just talked about. I don't know why I for some reason 2013 always stands out to me. I know you said that Chicago was just all around the better team, President's Trophy, but like I remember watching that game and watching the collapse with however many seconds it was. I think you mentioned earlier, and literally sit there being like, "What the did I just watch? Like, how do you lose a game that quickly and just look that inept doing it?" So I don't know. For some reason that and then like that stands out more to me than anything else. So that's why I have that at 2. 3 for me is the Philadelphia series in 2010, just because, again, you have a 3-0 lead. You're up 3-0 in Game 7, and you just choke that game away. So, again, that never sits right with me. So that's why I have a 3. 19 against St. Louis is 4 for me, and then I have the Ottawa series in 2017. I remember the same thing, watching that I think I was at work when that series ended, and I'm like, how did you just lose like to Ottawa out of all teams? Like that, it just never was good. I mean, there's plenty to choose from, and that kind of leads me into just kind of overall thoughts. Like I tweeted it out. I don't know if I texted it to you, but like this is it for me. Like this, well, I have them all listed here, all the collapses and everything, and all the just the comings up shorts. This is you're probably not going to hear this. Maybe you think it is, maybe you don't, maybe you agree with me, but this is at this point what this Bruins team is to me. They are nothing but a choking dog of a franchise, and I apologize if that comes off hard for Bruins fans, but like we've seen it time and time again with this team. I don't know how you can trust them moving forward. Like I thought this was going to be the year. Like anybody that's listened to me has seen in the past, anytime we do like Bruins playoff predictions and stuff like that, I'm more on the negative side than you are, being like they're the Bruins, they'll find a way to collapse and lose it. This year I thought was going to be different because of everything that happened, everything that they had gone through and overcome, and just how dominant they looked. And that's again why this loss hurts so much. I don't know how moving forward, unless something changes, and we're not going to get into, the roster construction and everything because it's too early in the offseason to do that. And there's other stuff that we have to get to. But this is what the Bruins are for me. I feel like 2011 is the one like anomaly year where they actually broke through and won the cup. Everything else is just, this is the status quo for this team. Get there and then find a way to just utterly collapse because that's what's in this team's DNA.
Yeah, it's fair. It is at this point. Sucks. It sucks because they've had so many chances.
Yep.
And it's not good.
I saw real quick too. I don't know if we were going to get into it or not have a whole deep discussion on it, but I've seen obviously some people talk about in Boston sports history, where does this rank? I don't know if we want to like jump into that, at least in our lifetime. For me, because I saw some people put it up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2007. That's still number one for me because again, you at least got to the Super Bowl and had that perfect season, high hopes and stuff like that. So that's still number one for me. And then I have this right up there as number two. I've seen some people argue all time. Obviously, we weren't alive for this, but the 86 Red Sox, that collapse against the Mets as number one, Patriots in 2007, number two, and then this for the Bruins collapse at number three. I don't know if you had any other collapses maybe, or things that kind of ring out to you, or you're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp, honestly. Not as much of a collapse, but if we're talking bad losses, 2018 against Philly in the Super Bowl was horrific.
Yep, that's a bad one too. Yep.
Oh, that sucked so much. It was that dork Nick Foles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's been a lot of them, but there's also been a lot of championships, so you gotta weigh the bad.
True. Yep, that is true.
We talked about what Swayman said. I mean, thinks he owes them one more save. It was just tough. You can tell he was fighting back tears. Can't blame him. Early in his career, you gotta learn how to handle those things with time. All you really can do.
Yep.
I didn't like this Jim Montgomery goaltending comment mentioning Bob Senza. I get it. Bob Senza is the goalie coach, but to lump him in for your ultimate choice is lame as fuck to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I think it shows what we talked about earlier is he wasn't ready for the moment. Like, and as you said, we kind of know, anyone with a brain and with eyes knew going into it that Olmark wasn't right. The fact that he didn't pull the plug sooner, like I get maybe you have some affinity if you're Montgomery to Olmark for what he did this season and how great of a year he had. But like, dude, you got to know after game 3, game 4, obviously they won game 3 and game 4. So we'll say game 5-ish. Something's not right. Definitely game 6. Like you said, you probably should have pulled him 2 or 3 goals in. You got to have a better grip of the situation there. And you got to have the brain to going into game 7, know that, yeah, Olmark was better goalie throughout the season, but Swayman's going to be the guy that puts us in a Swaymark. Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
He's going to be the guy that puts you in a better situation to try to win the game because he's the healthier of the two. And again, I know Olmark stood on his head at times in this series, but he just, especially after game 6, was not right. And to throw the goalie coach under the bus or, like you said, lump him into your decision that you should have made on your own, it's not a good look.
Yeah, it's lame. I think it's lame. I think it's lazy.
Absolutely.
Trying to deflect blame a little bit. But there is some merit to what he said because, of course, Bob Senza is the goalie coach. But
true, yep.
I don't know. I thought it was a little lame. Let's get into a breakup day, though. We learned Patrice Bergeron was playing with a herniated disc. I think we learned that the day before, but it was mentioned on breakup day as well. Not surprised that he played through it. As you've noted here, he wasn't sure if he'd retire if they won the cup.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I really thought
That
he'd walk
is the
off into the sunset type of thing if he did win.
that is the big tell that he's staying for me.
Yeah,
For
I
the
mean,
most part, but Ty Anderson also made a good point. He has the health of his father who has cancer on his mind, and he
mhm,
has another kid on the way. So those decisions to be with family are going to factor in.
mhm.
But the fact that he wasn't ruling out coming back if they won the cup lends to me thinking he's going to ultimately come back, especially if Krejci goes. Unless he absolutely feels like he can't come back and play. If
Mhm.
Krejci goes, he will 100% be back. He
Okay.
will. I don't think he'll leave them down two centers. And yeah, that's where I'm at on it right now. But I don't know. He's got a lot of different factors in his
I'm
life right
s-
now too.
yeah, I mean, I'm torn on it. I mean, anybody who watched the end of that or stuck around to watch the end of the game or watch just the end, like exchanges and him out on the ice hugging everybody, and obviously Marchand's reaction, like full blown tears. Krejci, same thing. All of them crying, hugging him. Like I kind of figured, like that's it. That was the tell that he's done. But then you get, like you said, these comments where maybe to me, I kind of looking at it. Like maybe his thought process was if he won the cup, okay, I won the cup, I can still play. Why not run it back again instead of like I said, like I won, I'll just ride off. My big thing's the herniated disc though. Like if that continues to linger, and it probably will, that's something I feel like that just doesn't go away. Is that something that kind of forces him into retirement more so? Like, all right, like I'm not gonna I don't want to go through this again. I know I can still play, but for my health and down the line, I'm probably going to have to hang it up. So it is interesting to keep an eye on, like you said, for all these different factors going into it.
Yeah, I mean, just another off season of seeing what happens with him.
Yep.
David Pastrnak injured his shoulder in the first shift of game one. I
Mhm.
think Peter Tankrat, the parody account, Mr. Tankrat, found the video. Just went down hard in a puck battle with Omar, not Omar. I don't know why I said because he's next in the L line.
Mhm.
That bled, but didn't seem to affect him too much. Maybe a little bit in the beginning because
First
he
couple
was
of
quiet
games,
at
yeah,
times.
it would
But
make more sense as to why he
mhm,
struggled games like 2, 3, 4-ish, because we said what game 5 was when he really broke out again.
yeah,
So that does make more sense now.
yep. Omar declined to disclose his injuries. Said you can be hurt or you can be injured. He was hurt, not injured. That's one of my favorite sayings. Are you hurt
Mhm.
or are you injured? Um, I don't know why he declined to disclose details, but he doesn't know a shit. He kind of does, but he mostly doesn't.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you don't have you
doesn't
could just
really
like you
bug me.
said, say yeah. I mean, his answers were weird. I feel like he's a weird guy, but as we've talked about before, you got to be a little bit of weird to play the position of goalie in the
Yeah.
National Hockey League, so it goes to territory. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I didn't really see anybody getting on him too much for declining the injuries and declining to talk about it. So again, like I said, anyone with eyes could tell he was hurt and it wasn't 100%. And I'll give him credit for going out there and trying to battle through. But again, like just keep harping back on it. Montgomery, man, you got to have a brain in your head to say, like, thank you for all you did this season, but you need to sit on the bench until you're at least close to being able to be 100% because you are not giving us the best chance to win right now.
Yeah, and both goalies just truly do not care who's in net and who isn't.
Exactly. It's not, yeah, it's
Like,
not like he would have been mad if he had to take a seat. Like we've seen it time and time again this season, the bond that him and Swayman have.
yep. Krejci's next. I don't know about Krejci right now. I'm 50-50.
Okay.
The Bruins are
As is
retirement.
he. Yep.
Um, the tone of which he was responding, though, kind of makes me seem like he's more so leaning towards potentially calling it. But at the same time, he said he doesn't want to make the wrong decision. So that
Okay.
also like opens it back up a little bit more. It's like a little teeter totter
Mm-hmm.
with Krejci right now. Um, I'm just 50-50 right now, Krejci. That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm kind of the same because I feel like he had one of the weirder series for Bruins players. Like, obviously, we still don't really know what he was out with for those couple of
arm
games
or
that he.
elbow injury.
Oh, was it okay? So I didn't see that, so
Yeah.
that would explain that. But I mean, yeah, even like you said, he scored a big goal late, didn't do a whole lot at the start of the series. So I mean, there are concerns maybe moving forward that he looked a little tired towards the end of the season, but who knows? Again, it's kind of one of those wait and see type of things.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see on Krejci. He will make his decision before Bergeron. We know that though in the next couple or
Yep.
few weeks. Bertuzzi's not had contract talks with the Bruins yet. It makes sense, and the season's still fresh. They're
Mhm.
going through stuff. He likes it here. He liked going to get pasta every day and walk. So that's one of the highlights for him. And if they can make it work, they should. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I would
that's the
not
thing with
be
him.
very vocal on Twitter. People follow me that I would like the Bruins to do whatever it takes to bring Bertuzzi back, but that is going to be a tall task. Because, like I said, we'll do roster construction stuff later on. But of course, they have a lot of questions moving forward to be able to bring him back.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Trent Frederick and Jeremy Swayman, both RFAs. Leaving it up to their agents that both want to stay. I think they will. They're RFAs. I don't see either of them being traded or walking.
Nope.
That one's pretty straightforward.
Absolutely.
If Foligno wants to stay here and feels like he has a lot left in the tank, Nick Foligno is like a signing you decide on at the end of the cycle. Like when everything else is settled, if he's still free, maybe you sign him cheap if you can fit him.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer Milan Lucic if that is the case, if they want to add a guy.
Wouldn't hate that.
But that's just me. I think Foligno's time is done here.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's gonna be one of the like tough cap casualties. We need some space here. If he's got to go, we have guys that can step into the lineup and kind of fill what he did a little bit, maybe to a lesser degree, at least from the leadership standpoint, the veteran standpoint. But depending on who comes back, you still have plenty of leader guys. Like Foligno is a guy that would, especially the year he had last year and everything he was able to come back from and play really well at times. It sucks to see him go, but you need cap space. He's one of those guys I'd first be looking at to be like, all right, sorry, man, but we got to cut corners here. You're going to be one of those guys.
Yeah, and I've seen some people say, you can do like 35 plus contract now, performance bonuses and stuff like you do with Krejci and Bergeron.
True. Yep.
I don't know if they want to do that with a third player if they bring back Krejci and Bergeron.
True. So, that's a good point.
I don't know. Just not a guy you desperately need to come back, but if you can make it work, I think you should because things went really well this year when he was healthy. Hampus Lindholm said his foot injury wasn't hampering him. Something was.
I don't know if I believe that.
He was just so bad.
Yeah, he was like really shell terrible of himself. Yep, I don't believe that in the slightest. Like again, like you said with Olmark, you don't owe us anything to disclose how severe the injury was, but watching him play, man, you can't tell me that something definitely was not wrong with him. Like,
yeah, it was really strange with Lindholm. Hopefully, it's not a ongoing thing because he's locked up a very long term. Connor Clifton said he and Don Sweeney had a really good talk. He wants to stay here. Not sure that will happen. I am also not sure that will happen. I don't think it will.
No, I'm right there with you.
Due for a pay raise and due to go to a team that has more cap space.
Yep. So, and again, he's kind of in the same boat Foligno is for me. You have guys that are kind of waiting in the wings here. We've seen some guys that have stepped into the role before and performed pretty well. So give a younger guy a shot.
You have Zaboral who makes just over $1 million, and you have potentially Mason Lohrei who will be ready to step in on an entry-level deal. Yep. So, yeah. Or you could just, sign someone for like $800K to play third.
Exactly.
Yep. At some point in the summer. Matt Grzelcyk said he was healthy, and being scratched didn't sit with him well.
Can't imagine it did.
He tried to be the best teammate he could be. I think there's a pretty decent chance Matt Grzelcyk gets traded. So I've seen people say they could trade him and Forbert. I don't think they're going to trade two defensemen off the roster.
Wouldn't make a lot of sense.
I think they will trade one of Grzelcyk or Forbert and Mike Riley's contract. Mike Riley's contract is a lock for me.
Yeah,
you don't have any picks. You gutted your picks. If you have to give up a fourth to get rid of that contract to free up cap space or a fifth or a low end prospect, just do it.
Yep.
Like you have nothing really to lose. Dmitry Orlov sounds like he wants to deal with the Cats, but he's open to the Bruins. He said he wants to be his last contract, reasonably so. I think he's going to find a compromise with the Capitals.
As do I.
They weren't on the same page. He wanted 6 years. They wanted to sign him to 3. Maybe they signed him to like 4 or 5 and rip the Band-Aid off. It could be a type of situation like Malkin last year. Malkin was going back and forth with the Penguins on term. Obviously a much different player, but maybe they find a middle ground and know, the guy's been around for a while. Let's just bite the bullet. They're losing a lot of defensemen. They're losing every defenseman besides like rookies on their defensive core, besides John Carlson to free agency. So, yeah,
it makes sense to bring him back.
They could use him. And Rasmus Sandin. Sandin might be an RFA, but they're not going to let him go. They gave up a lot to get him. And yeah, that's breakup day. And an additional note, fourth rounder from last year, Don Mellis, who had a really good year over in Europe, is bound for UMass Amherst this fall. It was between UMass Amherst and Northern Michigan. So he will be nearby. Very excited about him. He had a really nice year over in Europe, so we'll see how he does. Greg Carvel at Amherst. On to our second round thoughts and predictions. We will start with the Leafs and the Panthers. We are both on the Panthers side here because we saw what they could do to the Bruins, and the Leafs have lesser goaltending than the Bruins. And I think the Panthers will take it to them in a series that goes the distance in 7 games.
Yeah, I flip-flop back and forth. If you saw the outline earlier, I did have Toronto in 7, but then I remembered I smacked myself and I said I can't bring myself to pick Toronto in anything. So I went with the Panthers just because we saw, coming off this series against the Bruins, you got to have all the momentum in the world. I don't care if you're a lower seed, maybe a lesser talented team, but maybe that's not the case with what Florida showed in this series against the Bruins. You saw it in game 1, they beat up Toronto. It seemed like in every way, shape, and form. So I'm going with you. I'm going Panthers, ride the bandwagon. It sucks I have to stick with a team that beat the Bruins, but like I said, I cannot bring myself to pick the Leafs.
I can't either. And I truly, I'm not just saying this as someone who doesn't like the Leafs. I think the Panthers will win the series, and they won game 1 last night. And I didn't change my pick there. I did change my pick in the next series. I originally had Hurricanes in 7, but I'm changing it to Devils in 6. I don't know, man. I think the injuries are going to catch up to the Devils, and Akira Schmid, who was formerly an AHL goaltender who once let up 8 goals in a game this year.
Oh my God.
Is now looking like if they go to the Cup Finals, he could win the Conn Smythe. I'm going with the Devils. They beat a good team in the Rangers that they had to go the distance against. Carolina's banged up. I think the Devils can do it. They proved me wrong. I thought they'd be a first-round exit. I'm not going to bet against them this time. I'm going to give them the edge here in 6 games over the Hurricanes.
I went different. I picked the Hurricanes. Maybe I'm just not all that bought in on the Devils yet. Again, they had a great series against the Rangers. But I don't know. I just something for me I don't really know, to be honest. I just went with Carolina.
Yeah, it is kind of a toss-up series. I don't think there's one huge favorite, so that makes sense.
Yep.
Stars and Kraken. I had the Stars going to the Cup final, so I'm going to stick with them here. Kraken played really good against the Avalanche. I think this is going to be a tough series, but Seattle won last night, so they're off to a good start, potentially making me look dumb. But I'm going Stars in 6. I think it was a tough game for Jake Ottinger last night, but I think he can bounce back, and I really like the Stars group this year. Look, if anyone could have scored besides Joe Pavelski, who scored all 4 goals last night,
very true. Yep,
they would have had a chance. And there was a stretch of 4 goals, I feel like, in 2 minutes at one point that game. It was wild. Same thing with the Panthers and Leafs game. It was some weird games last night, but exciting ones. I'm going with Stars in 6.
I'd love Seattle to win just because at this point with the Bruins out, obviously you're maybe looking for the underdogs, or maybe you're rooting for the brand new kids in the bunch. But spoiler alert, if people forgot about it, my Western Conference Finals was Stars and Oilers. I'm sticking with it. I got Stars in 6.
You stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
There you go.
Golden Knights and Oilers. My biggest thing here is goaltending. I don't know if Laurent Brossoit can hold up against the Oilers' offensive attack. I just actually realized I meant to bring my iPad out here to have the game off to the side, which I forgot. That's okay, though. Not like this game's on yet anyways. It'd just be the Devils and Hurricanes game right now. I'm going Oilers in 6. I think, McDavid and crew are pissed off, especially after last year, and obviously playing very well as a team for the most part. If their goaltending can hold up too, because, it's not like Stuart Skinner is a Vezina contender over Laurent Brossoit. Both goalies, aren't the greatest, but solid. I'm giving Edmonton the edge because of the offensive advantage they should have in this series.
Same, and
I think Ekholm is a game changer for them too.
Absolutely, but I don't this is again. You're looking for a team to jump on board with the Bruins being out. This is it for me because I've crossed sports numerous times, talked about it. You think of, at least I do, think of McDavid as the Mike Trout of hockey. You'd like to see the best player in the league break through, win a cup. We started a couple years back with Ovechkin in Washington, finally get one. This is kind of that same thing for me. I'd love to see McDavid
last year.
Yeah, McKinnon last year too. That's right. Keep that trend going. Have McDavid finally get his first one. Like I said, when we did the original predictions, like you have 3 guys on that team with 100 points in the regular season, like that. It seems like more so than ever, it's Edmonton's time to finally break through.
Yeah, we'll see. It'd be pretty astonishing if they didn't for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting field left. The most recent Stanley Cup of anybody in the field remaining is 2006 with the Hurricanes, with 3 teams never winning a cup, being the Panthers, Golden Knights, and Kraken. So
you'll root for 2 of those teams. Yep, you'll root for 2 of those teams.
It's the Devils and anyone in the West. Otherwise, they can fuck off.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
Good enough.
Yep.
On to Celtics, who close out the Atlanta Hawks and have the 76ers in their way.
Yeah, and it's the same story, different day with the Boston Celtics. You want to, like I have in the outline, you want to talk about how good the Atlanta series was in the closeout, because I said it last week when we did the show, and I said that Jason Tatum needed to step up. Jaylen Brown was playing better than him. I would give Jaylen Brown the ball. And then I think to end the show, I said, but it wouldn't surprise me if Tatum comes out tonight and goes for like 35 and makes me shut right up. Tatum was excellent in the closeout game, 30 points, had that obviously great putback dunk that I think you finally saw a little bit of like pissed off Jason Tatum. And that playoff nastiness that I said last week that I wanted to see from him. So that was great to see. Seeing him do that, scream running up the court and kind of mead mugging all the way down. More of that from Jason Tatum would be nice. I think you saw a little bit of that in game 1 against Philadelphia on Monday night. But then, the biggest thing from the Atlanta game too was the defense finally steps up. They held Atlanta to 38.9%. And 50% shooting from deep in the fourth quarter after Atlanta shot 48% from the field the entire game, and they completely shut down Trae Young. Trae Young had just 2 points on 0 of 7 shooting, had 2 free throws. That was it when he had 30 points for the entire game. So, look, Boston did everything right towards the end. It was a crazy start. What's your reaction over there? Something?
He had 2 points in game 6?
No, in the fourth quarter.
Oh my God. I was like,
yeah, sorry.
What?
Kind of rushed through that. He had 30 for the game, but the Celtics held him to 2 points in the fourth quarter on 0 of 7 shooting.
Still excellent. So.
It is. So that's what I mean. Like, you have all these positive things happen down the stretch for the Celtics. It was a little iffy to start. They went back and forth. Atlanta held the lead a couple times. Obviously 15 lead changes back and forth, everything you could expect from a closeout game, with Atlanta obviously fighting for their playoff lives. Celtics, I thought, in crunch time really, narrowed things down, played well defensively. And then you have game 1 against Philadelphia come out, obviously after the Bruins break your heart on Sunday. The Celtics do it on Monday night, have a great start. Both teams are shooting the lights out. Fourth quarter comes along, crunch time comes along, and the Celtics just absolutely unravel once again. And they go back to doing some of the things that, really make you scratch your head with this team. Like, again, they start out the game running, everyone's touching the ball, you're moving it around great, you get whatever you want, go to the rim. With obviously no Embiid in the game, that helped a lot for the Celtics. Second half comes, they do the complete opposite. They kind of fall into the same problems they've had of, maybe underestimating their opponent. You let James Harden go for whatever it was, 45 or whatever, and just a very bad stretch to end the game. This was the Andrew Callahan tweet talking about the Celtics offensive struggles down the stretch, the final 2.5 minutes. Smart has a turnover. Tatum hits 2 of 2 free throws. Brogdon has a turnover. Horford hits a layup. Brogdon misses a 3. Horford misses a 3. Tatum misses a layup. Brogdon misses a pull-up. Tatum misses an end of the shot clock 3. And then, of course, you had that horrible Brogdon turnover, which you could debate, was it a shot clock violation? Was it not? I think the report at the end of the game said it was, but Celtics put themselves in that position. I'm not going to harp on it too much. What were kind of I know I ran through a lot here, but what were your kind of takeaways from game 1, if anything stood out to you?
Yeah, my biggest thing is just not winning when Embiid is out of the lineup, and that could really set them back. But as you have noted, if you want to run through it, like they have an interesting history with star players out of the lineup this year, or at least good players.
This was going into game 1. I think it was Sean Grandy that tweeted it out saying, quote, assuming Joel Embiid is out tonight in game 1, which of course he was, it's probably worth remembering that the Celtics had some setbacks this year when the opposition was missing a key piece. On October 28th, they played Cleveland, who didn't have Darius Garland. They lost by 9. December 10th against the Warriors, that was the finals rematch. The Warriors did not have Andrew Wiggins. The Celtics lost by 16. January 2nd at Denver, they did not have Jamal Murray. They lost by 12. January 4th against OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was out, and the Celtics had probably their worst loss of the season, losing by 33 points to OKC. January 24th against Miami, they didn't have Jimmy Butler. They lost by 3. February 3rd against Phoenix, they didn't have Devin Booker. They lost by 12. March 5th against the Knicks, they didn't have Jalen Brunson. They lost by 2. Against Utah on March 18th in Utah, they didn't have Clarkson or Sexton. They lost by 1. March 28th against Washington, they didn't have Bradley Beal or Kyle Kuzma. That was probably the Celtics' second worst loss of the year. They lost by 19. And then, of course, game 5 against Atlanta, no DeJounte Murray, and the Hawks were able to hold off elimination. They won by 2. So, again, that goes into the Celtics falling into their old habits. Joel Embiid's out. They take their foot off the gas pedal. You had some interesting comments post-game. Jaylen Brown, he kind of denied that, saying that they talked about it pregame, but he didn't think it factored in. And then Malcolm Brogdon on the opposite side of things, talking about it, said, taking their foot off the gas. He said, quote, "I think we do let our foot off the gas at times. I think we get comfortable. I think we're such a good team sometimes that we get big leads. We get comfortable. We let teams back into games. We have to tighten up, and I think we will." We've talked about that numerous times throughout the year, and that's been the Celtics' one big problem, in my opinion, is they know that they do this, and that's why it's so frustrating, why they just can't seem to ever break out of it. And I don't know if that's comes down to coaching or just it's kind of the same thing with the DNA of this team, just not being able to overlook these type of things. That's why it's so maddening. And as we'll get into it in a second, Embiid's back tonight. I have a better feeling with Embiid on the floor with this team than I did going into game 1 with him not playing.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird dynamic because you'd think it'd be he comes back and oh shit, but like it seems like people are pretty split.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw her. Go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll.
So I don't really know how to feel. Like,
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
Well, I saw a great tweet because obviously Joel Embiid, to really no surprise at this point, was announced as the MVP last night of the league. So obviously, congratulations to him. As much as you don't like Philly, what your thoughts on Embiid are. Like, it is good to see him finally win one after a couple of years where, it was really a toss up, if he should have got one or not. But I saw somebody tweet out where it's like Celtics are down 0-1. They just blew another lead. And Joel Embiid, the MVP of the league, is coming back with Philly up 1-0. And then it said Celtics have Philly right where they want them. Cause that's kind of how this team operates, or not kind of, it is how this team operates. Like, they get down when a star player is not out there, and then they kind of rise to the occasion when they are. Very confusing team, but like I said, moving forward, I don't want to say I'm not worried or not concerned, because there are things to be concerned about if they're going to start, or continue to have these problems creep up. But looking at the series moving forward, there's a couple of things that stand out to me, and reason why I'm not going to panic too much. And like I said, my first one is Joel Embiid's back tonight. I think that will probably sharpen the Celtics' focus. They're up 9 right now, so that's good to see. And obviously, like you said, you play up to the competition, go right with Philadelphia. James Harden, look, he was excellent last night. He's a guy, if people know me, that I'm not very high on, because I think James Harden has shown in the playoffs before that when it gets tough, he can't stick it out. He was excellent last night. He's not going to have 45 again in this series. He's not going to have 35 plus, let alone the 45 he scored. Definitely not on over 50% shooting from the field and exactly 50% from deep. He hit 7 threes on 14 attempts. That's not going to happen again in this series. The Celtics defense is going to be better. Exactly. It's not sustainable. They said it on the broadcast. He was taking a lot of 2-point shots from, inside the key right around there, which they said he was like one of the worst shooters in the league this season, which is kind of surprising. I didn't know that. But like, again, you can limit James Harden. You should be able to limit guys like Tyrese Maxey, who had 26, DeAnthony Melton, who I didn't even know who that was before last night, to be honest. He had 17, hit 5 threes. That's not going to happen again. You should be able to keep those guys in check. And Derek White probably had his worst game in maybe 2.5, 3 months. Had just 4 points on 20% shooting. He was 1 of 5 and was 0 of 4 from deep. Like, there's a lot of things that you can fix here. And I think they will fix. I think they've shown it so far tonight. Just trying to, keep an eye on the game as we're doing this. Like I said, 34-26, they're up now. Brown got off to a good start, I'm pretty sure. Tatum's looked pretty good so far. So I'm not all that concerned. Look, it's going to be a back and forth series. We expect that. Philly at some point has to make these series, worthwhile. Joel Embiid obviously had the great quote a couple of years back where, he was asked about a rivalry, and he said, I don't see it as a rivalry because these guys kick our ass every year. So it's not a rivalry. You got to think at some point they're going to put up a fight. I think this is probably their best chance because it's been one of their deeper teams they've had in a while. So I still have the Celtics in this series. I still have them in 7. I think this will be back and forth. You're going to see a lot of these type of games, down to the wire, I think. So my confidence isn't too shaken, but it'll definitely be something to monitor, if they can continue to have these lapses in judgment, or if, one of these days they finally break through and say, that enough is enough. We're going to be the team that we are and we're expected to be.
Yeah, I said Celtics in 5. So if they win in 5, I look like a beast at this point.
There you go. That'd be nice. 4 straight wins and get on out of here, get some rest and either play, hopefully, you don't hope for injuries, but a banged up Miami team or the Knicks, depending on how that series goes.
Yep. Yeah, I feel okay. I feel not okay if they lose tonight for obvious reasons.
Yeah, if they lose tonight, we're going to be in trouble. But I think, again, we've seen them bounce back from tough losses before. They did it all throughout the playoffs last year. They did it in the Atlanta series in game 1. I think they'll be fine. Like I said, I think it's going to be back and forth down to the wire. If they can get out of there in 6, that'd be great. If they can get out of there in 5, like you think, that'd be even better. But and it all factors in too on how actually hurt or how healthy Joel Embiid is. He's obviously playing tonight. I haven't really seen what he's done all that much. But if he's hampered in this and isn't 100%, I think that's something obviously you can take advantage of in plenty.
Yeah, I mean, how couldn't you? And I hope they do.
Yep.
Do we want to get to our second round predictions?
Sure, we'll jump through that really quick because there are some interesting matchups. One, of course, is this Knicks and Heat series that is tied at 1. Miami was able to take game 1 behind another excellent Jimmy Butler performance, 108-101. He had 25 and 11, but did injure his ankle in that game. Did not play in game 2. And New York's big 3 came to play. Jalen Brunson finished with 30. Julius Randle had a 25 and 12 double-double. And RJ Barrett, who's had a good series so far, put up 24 once again to help the Knicks get a 111-105 win. To me, I think game 2 is kind of an indication of how this series is going to go. If Jimmy Butler can't play or isn't 100%, I think the Knicks have it. But as we saw in that Milwaukee series, if Jimmy Butler gets out there and does what he does in the playoffs, I don't know if the Knicks have enough to withstand that. I know Miami, like I said, is banged up. Their depth might not be as good as the Knicks, but we said that with the same thing with Milwaukee, and look what happened.
Yeah. The Butler injury, obviously the big storyline right now.
Mm-hmm.
My big thing, though, is I don't know. Like, I really want to take the Heat to win this series, but it kind of feels like not a year of destiny, but like a year the Knicks finally do something.
Mm-hmm.
And the series is already 1-1 when you didn't have Jimmy Butler one game.
Yep.
So I'm going Knicks in 7.
Okay. I wouldn't hate that because as we talked about last week, but the Heat in the playoffs scared the daylights out of me because of Jimmy Butler. So like I said, if he's out for a long period of time, I think the Knicks, I'll do you one better. I think the Knicks can finish this thing off in 6 because with no Butler, with no hero, you saw it in game 2. Where's Miami's scoring going to come from? Bam Adebayo hasn't had
man. They're tough.
They are. They're resilient. I'll give them all the credit in the world as much as I don't like the Heat. They find ways to win. Spoelstra has proven time and time again he's an excellent head coach. But, you saw, like I said, you saw it game 2. Didn't have enough scoring when it came down to it. Didn't have enough to take out the Knicks. They were a little bit of a deeper team. If Butler plays, though, if he's good to go, I think the Heat can finish this off in 6 again, just on, his will and ability alone.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
All right, fair enough. Maybe the biggest surprise out of the couple series so far is the Denver Nuggets have a 2-0 series lead on the Phoenix Suns. It's been, a series that's been dominated by the former MVP, Nikola Jokic, who had 39 points last night or a couple nights ago. I can't remember if game 2 was last night or the night before. But his game 2 performance was excellent, a 39-16 double-double. Carries Denver past Kevin Durant's 24 and Devin Booker's 35. Game 1, it was really all of Denver's stars. Jamal Murray had 34 and 9. Jokic had 24, 19, and 5. Aaron Gordon added 23 en route to Denver's 125-107 domination in game 1. But the big storyline for Phoenix, other than that they don't have anybody who can stop Nikola Jokic, it appears, is that Chris Paul is reportedly going to miss games 3, 4, and 5 with a groin injury, which to me, I think, he's kind of the third passenger on that team behind Booker and Durant, but you saw how deep Denver's been in this series so far. They haven't had an answer for anybody yet. Phoenix down a superstar player. I think this series is over. As much as, there's some questions on Denver being able to break through, I think this is the year they do it. You and I, spoiler alert, both have Denver in 5.
Yeah, they're playing really good from what I can gather. And an MVP snub to Jokic might make him go extra sicko mode.
Maybe it's you don't really know how he's said it before. I think that he doesn't really care about the MVPs, but maybe there's a little something there that
guys say that
he feels slighted.
It definitely
you got to think
in the back of the mind a little
bit. Absolutely. But
especially if they were to play the Sixers in the finals.
Oh, that'd be wild. That
would be awesome.
That'd be a great. Again, you don't like Philly, but that'd be a great finals to see the two MVPs go at it. That'd be awesome. Because that's the thing. Like, DeAndre Ayton, who's had his criticisms in the past, like is showing in this series, he is not up to the task to stop Jokic. Like if you're getting 24, 19, and 39 and 16 dropped on your head in back-to-back games, like you got to figure out a way to at least limit him, like make somebody else beat you. But that's been the problem is Jamal Murray's back healthy. Aaron Gordon, can step up in moments. I know Chris Paul, again, he's not what he used to be, but having him there would obviously help a lot. And if he's not there, then I don't know, who else can step up for Phoenix? Because again, Durant and Booker's going to get theirs. Is it enough to compete with the big three of Denver? Probably not in the end, especially if DeAndre Ayton doesn't step up his game.
Yeah, it seems like things are going pretty roughly for the Suns.
Yep.
So the other West series, I feel like, is catching more eyes, regardless of whether Paul is in or not. But I mean, it's LeBron versus Steph.
Yeah, it could be the very last time you see that matchup. I think that's what a lot of people were rooting for when obviously Golden State knocked out Sacramento in Game 7. To which I said, like, thanks, Sacramento. You kind of screwed the rest of the NBA if Golden State can get by the Lakers, because I think it's not crazy to say if the Warriors win this series, they're probably going to the finals again, unless Denver is able to advance. Denver looks as legitimate as they have so far. But I think you saw last night was a good indicator of how this series should go if Anthony Davis is healthy. He absolutely dominated 30 and 23. It was the first time a Laker has done that since Shaq had a 30-20 playoff game. So that's a huge accomplishment there for the Lakers. And he's going to be the key to the series, not LeBron. I don't think the Lakers, or rather the Warriors, have anyone that can guard Anthony Davis. Kevon Looney tried his best, but kind of the same thing that we talked about, or I said with Jokic. If you have a center going for 30 and 23 and you have no answer for that, you're going to be in for a rough series. I mean, you saw the Lakers do a pretty decent job at limiting the Warriors shooters. Jordan Poole had one of the dumbest moments I've ever seen in the basketball game. He instead of channeling his 2022 finals performances against the Celtics, he decided to just chuck up a prayer with 10 seconds left from basically half court, which pretty much sealed the deal. Other than that, don't have a ton to go off of in the series because it's just one game. But like I said, I think Anthony Davis is probably going to be the difference maker for the Lakers if he's able to stay healthy and consistent. That's why I have them finishing off Golden State in 7. I'm sticking with my original prediction.
I'm going to stay on my LeBron hater BS and go with the Warriors.
Fair enough. Like I said before, I hate that I have to root for LeBron and the Lakers in this series, but I can't. I don't want to see the Warriors go on another run. And God forbid the Celtics get to the finals and have to play Golden State again. I don't want to have to sit through that again and have my heart broken if Steph Curry catches fire, which, like you said, you saw in Game 7, him go for 50 against 50, Sacramento.
Yeah. Yep. They're going to the finals again unless Jokic can put together a godlike performance.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at.
Yep.
But that is going to wrap it up for episode 141 on this Wednesday night. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on Twitch and YouTube on the Full Press Coverage Twitch and YouTube pages. You can find us on TikTok. Find us on Twitter. You can follow me at Mike_Cratty. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio, and you can follow the show at Sal and Cratty Pod. And yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice people, all that good stuff. Go Celtics, and we will talk to you next week.